The Book of Enoch, banned from the Bible, reveals shocking secrets of our history. Enoch journeyed alongside the Elohim, essentially powerful entities. In a manner of speaking, afterward, he vanished because these potent beings took him away. The Book of Enoch elucidates the implications of associating with these powerful beings, revealing astonishing specifics. 200 celestial observers descended to Earth and engaged in procreation with human females, resulting in a race of colossal beings. This recurrent theme finds resonance in Genesis 6 and permeates the narratives of diverse global cultures. Beyond the Book of Enoch, tales of Mamiwata and accounts of alien abductions echo this motif. In 1984, a 26-year-old woman reappeared on the coast of Nloga, a seaside town within Ghana's Volta region in West Africa. Upon her return to her family residence, she was greeted with a mixture of elation and bewilderment, having been absent for 3 years. Her kin was rife with inquiries. What caused her disappearance? Where did she venture? What transpired during those lost years? Her account left her family distressed and perplexed. The young woman recounted being forcibly taken while strolling along the shore and transported to a distant community where she endured captivity. For 3 years, she resided among her captors and was coerced into childbearing. However, the most startling revelation was yet to surface. Pressured by her family to disclose her whereabouts, the reasons behind her silence, and the identities of her abductors, she finally confessed to being taken from the beach to a submerged dwelling. Her captors sought to use her for procreative purposes. Most unsettling was the realization that these individuals were not. They were the Mamiwata people. Beliefs surrounding the Mamiwata extend across Africa's western coast and permeate the Caribbean. While their manifestations and appellations differ across regions, the fundamental narrative remains remarkably consistent. Upon initial encounter, it evokes Western mermaid lore or the Greek myth of the sirens. The Mamiwata are typically depicted as strikingly attractive, often feminine, beings who abduct people near the water's border. This might prompt the thought, well, that just sounds like some kind of a cautionary tale to tell young men to behave and not be tempted, or to stay safe and not go near the water. What captivates me about this tradition is its antiquity, predating the designation Mamiwata by millennia. Particularly fascinating is the persistent narrative of abductions stretching back countless years. The account this young woman shared with her family was undoubtedly not fabricated for personal gain. Being distantly related to the family, I can attest that her intention was not self-serving. Logically, such a tale would not garner support, acceptance, or employment opportunities. Instead, it might lead to confinement and medication, a reality not lost on individuals. Therefore, their willingness to share such an account warrants respectful attention. The narrative's extensive reach and historical depth suggest a need for more This story operates within a grander and more ancient narrative framework. It harkens back to the Book of Enoch. The genesis of the Book of Enoch is found within Hebrew tradition. Scholarly consensus places the authorship of its various segments in the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC, potentially encapsulating an even older oral history. Bearing Enoch's name, the book aligns with the Book of Genesis, which identifies Enoch as the father of Methuselah, Lamech's father, who in turn fathered Noah. Enoch might be considered the world's inaugural abductee, though likely a voluntary one. The book details a period of 1 year, during which Enoch received notice before being separated from his loved ones. Turning to chapter 5, verse 24 of the Book of Genesis, we find the following: Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him away. My own work, Escaping from Eden, posits that this is, in actuality, an inaccurate interpretation. The passage centers around Elohim, a term frequently rendered as God. However, Elohim exists in plural form and aligns grammatically with plural verbs. Thus, a more accurate rendition of the text suggests that Enoch accompanied the Elohim, these potent beings, on their path. His subsequent disappearance resulted from their action. This encapsulates the essence of Enoch's story as conveyed in the Book of Enoch. The book delves into the profound implications of walking with these powerful entities, unveiling remarkable details. Book of Enoch is a composite of multiple works. Within the Book of Watchers, Enoch chronicles the abductions and impregnations of human women by beings originating from celestial outposts. It further describes the author's cosmic voyages, revealing truths about other dimensions previously unknown to humanity. The Book of Parables focuses more on Enoch's personal journeys and explores God's judgment of these watchers and divine plans for humankind. It hints at the arrival of a divine savior. In the Book of Heavenly Luminaries, an entity known as Uriel guides Enoch through the galaxy. Whether through physical transit, astral projection, or simple mentorship, Uriel imparts astronomical knowledge and reveals the laws governing the cosmos. Enoch's descriptions reflect his geocentric perspective, where the Earth appears flat and enveloped by a dome-like structure. This framework informs his interpretation of what he's shown. Interestingly, this recurring theme of an advanced being imparting celestial knowledge to a human resonates within other Hebrew tradition. The prophet Ezekiel provides a more tangible account of his own encounter. He recounts being extracted from his location by an airborne vessel piloted by a human-like figure who navigates him through various cities of ancient Iraq before ultimately leaving him in Tel Aviv. Traditionally, scholars have interpreted Ezekiel's account as visionary, but perhaps it reflects a genuine physical event, an alien abduction as we might understand it today. Both the Book of Enoch and the Book of Ezekiel fall under the umbrella of apocalyptic literature. This genre signifies that the author has witnessed something beyond their comprehension, something unfathomable and deeply significant. The author simply recounts their experiences, leaving the interpretation to the reader. Ezekiel doesn't frame his account as a vision. He pinpoints his location during the encounter with the craft, details the flight path, describes the sights he observed, and recounts his disoriented state upon arrival, rendering him speechless for a week. It's fascinating to note that, throughout the journey, the pilot, described as having a human-like appearance, like a son of man, engages Ezekiel in conversations about religion and governance. All the while, Ezekiel remains captivated by the craft itself. He meticulously details his observations of its metallic structure, shiny surface, unusual wheels, glass enclosure, and the pervasive roar accompanying its movement. He grapples with comprehending the vehicle transporting him, referring to it as Yui's habitation or simply the glory, lacking the vocabulary to articulate it otherwise. For a contemporary audience, his account paints a vivid picture that resonates with modern understanding. To dismiss his experience as merely a vision is akin to disregarding the testimonies of other individuals who report contact, abductions, and unexplained events. It reflects a tendency to ignore anything that challenges our existing worldview, a worldview that asserts our solitary existence in the universe. Support for the claims within the Book of Ezekiel can be found in other ancient writings. For instance, the Hindu text Bhagavad Gita describes flying, spacefaring vehicles. Comparable vessels appear in ancient Egyptian and Mesoamerican artwork. In the Book of Enoch, the writer describes journeys extending beyond Ezekiel's, even exceeding the bounds of our solar system. Ezekiel's travels remain earthbound, confined to the skies above Iraq, while Enoch describes traversing the galaxy under the guidance of Uriel, a non-human being. It's not entirely clear whether Enoch's experience was physical, akin to reviewing a celestial map. What is evident is his attempt to reconcile these experiences with his own worldview. Nevertheless, he's exposed to knowledge of star positions, celestial bodies, their movements, and their interrelationships. This emphasis on astronomical information, while unusual within the Bible, finds parallels in various global mythologies. Consider the Mayan calendar, Aztec cosmology, Sumerian texts, Egyptian knowledge, all bearing evidence of surprisingly precise astronomical insights embedded within their ancient narratives. Such findings prompt questions about how such civilizations acquired this knowledge in those bygone eras. A compelling case is that of the Dogon people of Mali. Their shamanic elders, when engaging with anthropologists, revealed knowledge pertaining to the Sirius star system. Astonishingly, they knew it to be a 3-star system, a fact unknown to modern science until the 20th century. When asked about the source of this information, they attributed it to the people who taught us. They were from Sirius C. A pattern emerges within global ancestral narratives and ancient myths, a recurring motif of accurate astronomical knowledge, remarkable insights woven into very old stories. Echoes of this pattern surface in the Book of Enoch, where a non-human entity. The Book of Enoch graphically details a time when 200 watchers arrived on Earth and began abducting women to father a hybrid race of giants. Other global mythologies corroborate these accounts of extraterrestrial interference with human reproduction, offering evidence that this is not a new phenomenon. While the Book of Enoch is quoted in the New Testament's letter of Jude and considered part of the Bible by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, it has been excluded from both Jewish and Christian canons of Scripture. That the Book of Enoch is not included in the official doctrines is not of particular consequence, as it is still considered canon by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and was freely quoted by influential early church leaders such as Clement of Alexandria. That the writer of the Book of Jude quoted the Book of Enoch verbatim shows that he assumed his New Testament readers were familiar with it and its writing. In fact, the accounts in the Book of Enoch help explain narratives found in canonical books, including Genesis, Ezekiel, the Gospels, and the New Testament, making it a valuable resource for believers to explore. The Book of Enoch recounts the story of 200 watchers descending upon Earth to interbreed with human women, which resulted in a race of giants. It's a tale echoed across cultures, appearing in the lore of Africa. Time and again, the story unfolds in the same fashion. Beings from elsewhere come to Earth, mate with women, and create a new giant-like species known by various names: giants, titans, or Nephilim. Western scholars often view these ancient tales of interbreeding with otherworldly beings as mere folklore, interpreting them as fictional or nothing more than imaginative literary creation. Some perceive the Book of Enoch's watchers and the Mamie Wata as spirit entities, but this explanation fails to account for the recurring interbreeding narrative. Many Christian and shamanic tradition, especially in Africa, take a more literal interpretation of the watchers, believing them to be physical beings from outer space with the ability to mate with humans due to their similarity to us. Although the resulting offspring are distinctly different, their ability to traverse vast distances quickly alludes to advanced technology or even interdimensional travel. Their arrival from the sky and interference in human affairs, always presented in a negative manner, certainly bears a striking resemblance to the modern idea of abduction syndrome. Is not a new phenomenon studied only in recent times. The late Harvard professor John Mack, head of clinical psychology, dedicated years to studying this. In the 1990s, the U.S. Department of Defense recruited Professor Mack to assess the mental state of military personnel reporting close encounters with extraterrestrials. In the course of his investigation, and by using a technique that eliminated collusion or fabrication among subjects, Professor Mack discovered that these encounters were neither hallucinations nor signs of mental illness, but genuine events worthy of further investigation. His findings extended to civilian airline workers who reported similar encounters. Pope Benedict XVI, in 2009, called for a gathering of 30 scholars and theologians to discuss the theological implications of contact with otherworldly beings. Their findings were presented to the press by the Vatican's top expert on paranormal phenomena, Monsignor Corrado Balducci, a leading exorcist for the Roman Catholic Church. His conclusion: these abductees were not delusional or suffering from demonic influence, but instead had encounters with a completely different kind of being that merited deeper study. The renowned astrophysicist Carl Sagan suggested that further examination into similar phenomena was needed, even going as far as postulating that aliens may have visited Earth as many as 10,000 times. His conclusions stem from Babylonian mythology about the Apkallu, amphibious beings responsible for ushering in the Sumerian civilization. The Apkallu were first described by a Babylonian priest named Berossus in the 3rd century BC. He recorded that they were part human and part aquatic, which is a recurring theme across many unrelated cultures, African, Caribbean, and others around the world, that have no known contact with each other. Could this be just a coincidence, or does this point to evidence of something more? One of these Apkallu, Oannes, is credited with gifting humanity with the tools of civilization. A young Carl Sagan, in 1962, while studying at Berkeley, wrote about this in his paper Direct Contact Among Galactic Civilization. 4 years later, he continued this exploration in a collaboration with Ukrainian scientist I.S. Shklovsky, titled Intelligent Life in the Universe. Could it be that extraterrestrials like the Apkallu are the reason for Sumerian civilization's sudden leap forward, complete with writing, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, sophisticated city planning, banking, a complex legal system, culture, and literature? It's a massive leap for humanity that needs explaining. Perhaps an outside influence, as described in the Apkallu story, could provide the answer. It's interesting that the physical descriptions of the Apkallu so closely resemble other ancient stories, like those surrounding the Mamiwata. The U.S. alone sees more than 500,000 missing person cases each year. In 2018, 612,846 individuals were reported missing, many of which were cases of misadventure, human trafficking, or other violent crime. Although most missing persons are eventually located, nearly 15 of those cases, almost 90,000 annually, remain unsolved. Thousands vanish from national parks yearly, an alarming statistic the Park Service is hesitant to disclose or track. And not just people who wander off and get lost, These are people who are in the middle of conversation. We have no concrete answers for this. Surely, this unexplained phenomenon and the suffering it causes should disturb us more than being open to explanations outside of our accepted worldview. Scientists and religious leaders alike believe these occurrences, which have persisted throughout history and across cultures, deserve further, unbiased study. One of the more captivating aspects of the Book of Enoch is how a celestial being, Uriel, mentors Enoch in all things cosmic. From understanding humanity's place in the universe to the inner workings of our solar system and the celestial origins of powerful beings, this concept of receiving knowledge from otherworldly beings is common in other indigenous stories and is often supported with evidence. Westerners tend to perceive these as isolated incidents and relegate them to the realm of mental health, specifically after the 1950s. But evidence shows that these incidents are not new and appear in mythologies from around the globe and throughout history. These types of stories are rarely shared as they tend to invite ridicule, not fame and fortune. We must start listening to and respecting what these individuals have experienced, as the evidence shows it may point to a new type of being that exists and warrants further. Perhaps the Book of Enoch and the lore of the Mamiwata offer us the context to understand these events, a wider lens through which to view our place in the universe, going back thousands of years. Was humanity given the gift of knowledge from extraterrestrials in our prehistoric past? Is it purely a human endeavor? Why do we see the theme of humans being guided by a more advanced race woven into the stories of so many cultures around the world? By silencing those who come forward, like the young woman from Ghana with their experiences, are we ignoring a piece of the puzzle? Perhaps her experience and the stories of the Apkallu and ONS are not isolated incidents and could point to a deeper truth behind humanity's giant leap forward. But what's more intriguing is that these abductees, when they do return, often have enhanced intelligence, almost like a form of acquired savant syndrome, a documented phenomenon in neuroscience where injury to the central nervous system or a traumatic event unlocks previously dormant capabilities. Those who've encountered the Mamie Wata, for example, are told they will return more intelligent, their consciousness expanded, part of the exchange for their ordeal. These details make up an intriguing and consistent narrative thread found across many cultures. While the Book of Enoch, with its stories of non-human inhabitants, might seem fantastical and at odds with modern religions, they are not unusual to cultures who've long believed in such being. The Dogon tribe, with their stories of the Sirius star system, the Cherokee, with their history of contact with the Pleiades, and various African and Caribbean groups familiar with the Mamie Wata, would likely view the stories in the Book of Enoch as quite familiar. Those with experiences like the young woman from Ghana can perhaps find comfort in knowing their stories are not new and that theirs is not the first generation to encounter and report them. Perhaps by listening to our soldiers and others with similar stories of alien contact, we can finally begin to unlock a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. The Qumran Caves, located on the Dead Sea, were once home to an ancient religious community and a hiding place for valuable manuscripts and scrolls. In 1947, a shepherd discovered the first of these texts. Over 800 were eventually recovered, which included one of the most important finds to date, the Book of Enoch. While other versions exist, the oldest version of the book originated in Ethiopia, home to the only Christian church that considers it canon. The book contains several separate works, including the Book of Watchers, the Parables of Enoch, the Astronomical Book, or Book of Luminaries, the Book of Dreams, and the Epistle of Enoch. Many of the writings echo those found in Hebrew scripture, but some are unusual, to say the least. The existing scrolls are dated between the 3rd and 1st centuries BC. The genesis of their narratives and definitive authorship are shrouded in enigma. Although the book is ascribed to Enoch, this doesn't definitively answer the question of authorship, just as it is not certain that the historical Moses penned every text attributed to him or that the prophet Isaiah composed all the writings bearing his name. The true authorship of the Book of Enoch remains an unresolved puzzle. However, Enoch himself stands out as a compelling and enigmatic figure. He holds a significant place in biblical genealogy as an ancestor of Noah, being his great-grandfather. Enoch's lineage extends even further back, as he is recognized as the great-great-great-great. If we consider this lineage, my calculations suggest he would have had 62 other great-great-great-great-great-grandparents within the same generation as Adam and Eve. Taking this narrative at face value, it begs the question. This presents us with a mystery layered within an enigma. Scholars postulate that the Qumran community served as a sanctuary for the Essenes, an intensely private monastic group. These Judean mountain caves became their highly guarded repository of knowledge. Evidence indicates that the Qumran community aligned with the broader Essene movement, a monastic-oriented community of that era. It is not difficult to comprehend why they would have been drawn to this particular book. Numerous themes within its pages would have resonated deeply with their beliefs. Notably, there exists a section within chapters 85 through 90 comprised of prophetic writings. Many interpretations suggest these passages predict the Moreover, these prophecies seem to foretell the advent of the Essenes themselves, followed by Jesus of Nazareth and his 12 disciples. The Essenes were not the only ones who revered this book. Numerous early church fathers cited its passages extensively and accorded it the same respect as canonical scriptures. This esteemed group included figures such as Tertullian, Justin Martyr, Origen, and Clement of Alexandria, all treating it as an integral part of their accepted religious texts. Given the widespread respect the book commanded in antiquity, what aspects of its content sparked such controversy that it was ultimately excluded from the officially sanctioned canons? Chapters 1 through 36 comprise the Book of Watchers. This section chronicles interactions between extraterrestrial beings and humans. Some of these encounters are depicted as non-threatening, even contributing to the development of human society. These watchers, as they are known, imparted knowledge to humans about agriculture, medicinal practices, and various healing arts. They introduced metalworking technologies and acquainted humanity with adornments like jewelry and cosmetics. The very notion of beings from other planets. These watchers, arriving on Earth and instructing Homo sapiens in agriculture and civilization, sets the Book of Enoch distinctly apart from the texts within the accepted biblical canon. However, this narrative is not isolated. It resonates across numerous global mythologies. We encounter comparable accounts in Native American traditions, Mayan lore, Zulu beliefs, and Babylonian narratives. A common thread unites these diverse cultural expressions: the assertion that in our prehistoric past, an intervention occurred. Beings from beyond our world arrived on Earth and played a role in shaping the human race, guiding us toward consciousness, intelligence, and technology. In essence, they furnished us with the fundamental elements of civilization. Although these narratives have persisted within indigenous mythologies globally, it appears that the admission of a broader extraterrestrial family was a bridge too far for the Jewish and Christian authorities of the time. Among the teachings conveyed by these watchers, one stands out as particularly significant within the Book of Enoch: the teachings of astronomy. This emphasis on astronomy marks another point of divergence between Enoch and other Jewish writings. Astronomy, often intertwined with astrology during that epoch, does not receive favorable treatment within the accepted Bible. However, it emerges as a recurring motif in the Book of Enoch. Once again, this distinction between Enoch and other Jewish writings finds echoes in global mythologies. When we lend an ear to these various narratives from around the world, familiar themes resurface. Mayan astronomical knowledge is renowned for its sophistication. Ancient Egyptian and Sumerian cultures possessed remarkable celestial insight. Consider the case of the Dogon people and their intricate understanding of the Sirius star system. In the Book of Enoch, we find descriptions of lunar orbits, the Earth revolving around the Sun, the Moon's reflection of sunlight, the nature of eclipses, and the cyclical patterns of the Moon. This raises the question: how did the writer acquire this knowledge? Was it through direct observation and physical travel? Was it accessed through altered states of consciousness? Was this information relayed through ancient texts? Or perhaps a form of remote viewing? As we delve deeper into the latter portions of the Book of Enoch, the suggestion emerges that it might have been a combination of all these possibilities. Among the book's most provocative claims are the accounts of extraterrestrial beings, these watchers abducting human females for procreation. Their offspring are described as giants, known as Nephilim in the Book of Genesis. Greek mythology refers to these beings as Titans, and similar narratives of this captivating episode appear in mythologies worldwide. The first-century Jewish historian Josephus acknowledges this collective memory of human abductions and hybridization as presented. Josephus treats these accounts as historical fact, pointing to the presence of giants in his own time as tangible evidence of this ancient intervention. Interestingly, Josephus observes that a written record of these events also exists within Greek mythology. He connects these accounts to Genesis chapter 6, where the narrative of interbreeding is presented succinctly and abruptly with no introduction for the beings. This strongly suggests that the author of Genesis chapter 6 presumed his audience was already familiar with these events through another source. However, the concept of human abduction remains the most challenging aspect of the book for many to comprehend. Enoch's experience could be interpreted as the first recorded instance of human abduction, although, based on chapters 18 and 81, he might have willingly accompanied his abductors after being given a year's notice. If we refer to Genesis chapter 5, verse 24, we find the following. Enoch walked 365 years, and then Elohim took him away. The term Elohim, often translated as God, actually translates to the powerful ones. From the Book of Enoch are considered a subset of the Elohim, those powerful beings from the biblical narrative. Further reinforcing this connection, Genesis chapter 6 describes these watchers as Bane Elohim. Delving deeper into the source material that informed these early biblical narratives leads us to the Sumerian texts. These ancient Sumerian accounts describe sky people or star people. These texts detail how 300 of these beings were sent to what they call a concept we might interpret as space stations. These beings were tasked with acting as observers. This term observers, used in the Sumerian accounts, directly mirrors the term watchers in the Book of Enoch. It's difficult to dismiss this as mere coincidence. The question remains, why did the Book of Enoch not find its place within the official biblical canon? There exists a strong consensus among contemporary biblical scholars that the Hebrew creation stories, as we know them, were significantly shaped by editorial decisions made around the 6th century BC. Similarly, in Christianity, during the 2nd century, choices were made that shaped the New Testament and led to its fusion with the Hebrew texts, giving birth to the Christian Bible. A monotheistic worldview drove these pivotal decisions. Edits made to Hebrew scriptures were intended to support this monotheistic framework, reinforcing the belief that humanity stood alone in the universe. Consequently, texts like the Book of Enoch, replete with multiple divine beings, references to extraterrestrials, and suggestions of intergalactic or interdimensional travel, contradicted this established narrative. These concepts were deemed unacceptable because, within the context of ancient beliefs, they simply presented too many gods. My book, Escaping from Eden, argues that, while the 6th century BC edits effectively addressed the issue of too many gods, they did so by merging the concept of God with these other powerful entities, whose presence is readily apparent within the Bible if one looks beyond the traditional translation. By obfuscating the distinction between God and these other beings, the editor effectively pushed this alternative narrative to the periphery, generating considerable confusion regarding the nature of God as portrayed in the Bible. We are left attributing actions to God that might very well have been the doing of extraterrestrial beings interacting with early humanity. I maintain that a more accurate translation of the Bible reveals a narrative filled with references to non-human entities. Examples abound, such as the Nephilim, the Anakim, the Enakim, the Elakim, the Enohim, the Book of Ezekiel describes. These are just a few threads within the larger biblical tapestry that the established religious institutions of the time found inconvenient or troublesome and chose to quietly disregard. The Book of Enoch, however, disrupts this narrative by explicitly acknowledging these entities. In a worldview where extraterrestrial life is deemed impossible, maintaining a monotheistic framework within the biblical canon necessitated the book's exclusion. The Book of Enoch's exclusion presents us with crucial questions. Why suppress the historical record of contact between humanity and extraterrestrials? Why was it taboo to acknowledge the role these watchers played in our advancement Why were these accounts of human extraterrestrial interaction, specifically abductions and hybridization, omitted from the officially sanctioned Jewish and Christian texts while being allowed to persist in other indigenous narratives worldwide? What purpose did this secrecy serve? And are we perhaps entering an era where the veil of secrecy is finally being lifted? We appreciate you joining us on this exploration. Feel free to comment with your thoughts on today's narrative. If you're eager to uncover more Bible mysteries, subscribe now and stay with us as we delve into this fascinating yet sorrowful history.